Marie,
Yes.
would you like to
I would
introduce
just
yourself?
start. My name is Marie. I'm a partner and a tax advisor. And I started my career in an audit firm, and I'm a tax advisor now for more than 8 years. So my main task is to make sure that my clients comply with all the tax regulations and to help them optimize their personal tax situation. So today I'm in charge of quite a big team, and our day-to-day business is the preparation of tax returns, of financial statements, of registrations, whatever is necessary in order to be compliant. And we also advise in the crypto space, and we have a profound knowledge of the how to account for all sorts of token transactions and transfers. And actually, we do have a bit of technical understanding, and we do know the relevant tools in order to simplify the whole accounting matter.
Can you explore a bit more? Because that's really interesting. When I got to know Marie, she really has a deep dive into the technology. She even took the master classes of Professor Scher.
Very interesting, actually.
So, and you developed tools to
we didn't develop them, but there are certain tools on the market which really simplify the whole accounting matters. So you don't have to do it all manually, and that gives it a kickstart, basically.
So she really gets her hands dirty. She doesn't give like abstract advice and saying, well, maybe, but she actually suggests how to.
I have to put it in the return.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
what I'm doing. Yeah.
All right. So my name is Nina Siedler. I'm also at Möhrle Happ Luther, but not on the tax, but on the legal side. I'm in the blockchain space already since 2015. In 2016, I believe I was the first one raising an inquiry with BaFin for an ICO and what that could maybe mean according to German law. I had also the fun of having been invited to the DAO curator channel when the whole thing went bust in 2016, always shouting, "Ah, you're all crazy, this is regulated business," but nobody wanted to listen back then. Formed the Blockchain Bundesverband, the German Blockchain Association, in 2017 to get a bit more serious, and a legal think tank in Luxembourg called Think Block Tank in 2018, and then the European Commission came up and asked for support in forming what ultimately became the INATBA, the International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications, where I had the pleasure to serve on the board for the first 2 years. So I'm in this space for already quite a while. And personally, I focus on financial regulatory and governance work. Today, I'm a bit out of my comfort zone because for this talk, we actually accumulated a lot of know-how from other colleagues within our firm. Because this touches a variety of topics. It's not only tax and regulatory, but it goes well beyond. But we saw that this topic is not really that present with conferences. So we thought there is some value in bringing this forward. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. All right, so Web3 incentives. Web3, I think everybody in the room is aware. Yesterday, I think, was a whole day already on that topic, but just as a reminder, what are we talking about? Not the semantic web of Web 1, not the web of contributions by users, what we call the Web 2, but the Web 3, the web of value. So what is this about? It's basically about inviting a larger community to do projects together, to get away from the very concentrated internet that we currently have, which is basically designed by a few number of large internet companies. And in order to do so, to actually co-create and to get people participate in creating value, you need fair rewards. And ultimately, you want a larger group of people being or feeling like the owners of a project in order to create a true passionate community. And for that purpose, you need a means of value. A web of value needs a means of value, and that is the token, typically the one native to the projects, but not necessarily. And the real pro of that token is that its creation does not involve that high costs. Obviously, it depends how that thing is designed. But generally speaking, you can create a token at quite low cost. And the contributors ultimately work together to make this token more value. And so they get aligned and one common incentive. So what do we see in the market? Basically, we just took a couple of examples, which are very common. So you see employee participation. That's actually what we have on our desk most of the time. The employee participation works a bit similar to the common ESOPs and VSOPs. Who is aware what an ESOP is? Just one? Oh, a little bit further in the back. So ESOP is employee stock option plan. That's the traditional way of having employees participate in a company. That only works for stock companies. For traditional GmbHs, it's a bit cumbersome due to the formal requirements we have in Germany. So for those, and also for tax reasons, which you will explain later this afternoon, the so-called VSOPs got more common. Those are the virtual employee stock option plans, where you don't really get any stock anymore or a GmbH share, but you are getting only an entitlement to a payment which is calculated as if you were a shareholder. And that can also be replicated by tokens. I like to call them ETOPs, employee token option plans, so that in that case you don't really get a participation in the company as such, but only in the project. And that can also be very interesting for industry players, because typically if you're very large, you might not want to, hand out a share in the overall company, but limit it to the project that the people are actually working on. Then we have the community grants. Community grants, when you Google it, it's very interesting. You don't really come across token community grants, but there are tons of community grants out there where you get invited to propose something that is useful to any given project. And if you are the lucky winner and chosen, then you get assigned, in our case, some tokens. You see that with a lot of communities out there. Think of Polkadot or of Ocean Protocol. They all have community grants. And there is a lot of things involved in doing that from a legal side as well as from a tax side. Grant does seem to indicate that this is for free, right? But actually we will see this afternoon that this is not always the case. Airdrops is another interesting topic that is supposed to be actually free and randomly, but sometimes it also comes with some conditions, and then you can already start to discuss what that is actually. And we will look this afternoon to regulated token airdrops, because from the US side of things, we hear those might be securities, and even if they are handed out for free, you might need to register that. So we take a look how that works in Europe and specifically in Germany. Yeah, so this is, let's take a look. We've got a couple of minutes to go, that's good. So for all of these, typically we ask ourselves, when do they actually become legally relevant, right? The airdrop or the community grant. So that's the first step, and that starts with the documentation. You should properly document it in order not to raise expectations that you're later not fulfilling or satisfying, so that you might get sued. That also includes proper disclosures, specifically if you're also approaching consumers and not only entities. Then terms and conditions will have a play. IP rights, always very important when you talk about inviting somebody to add some code. Then obviously IP rights are a topic. And then when it becomes relevant,
then
we're at tax.
Yeah, we're at tax. So You said earlier that Web3 wants to create value, and I mean, if you create value, German tax authorities like to participate in that value, usually, at least if you're resident in Germany. So I had a look at my day-to-day work, and I picked some nice examples from my desk, which came across my desk, and I want to discuss employee participation, like having a look at the accounting of the employer and also on the wage tax implications of the employee. And I want to compare it to the freelancer, because we see these token sale agreements with freelancers all the time. And I want to give you a heads up on the registration that is necessary, and also on this famous 1 year period. Does it work if you get it as a freelancer? And then we will have a look at community grants, like having a look at the VET, seeing, well, what's a real grant and what's an exchange of services. And we will have a look at airdrops, like from the recipient's view. So it's quite a program, Nina, isn't it?
Yeah. And actually, the larger part this afternoon will be with Marie on the tax things. Yeah. So we obviously asked our labor law colleagues to contribute a bit from the labor law side, specifically for the employee participation. There are some interesting principles applying here, but through the lines I also heard that there might be some workarounds here and there, which we can talk about. Then always when you talk about employees, there is this principle of equal treatment, so you cannot simply grant one developer one token and the other one basically doing a comparable work 1,000 token. These things won't really work. And then regarding the unfair contract terms, you might have heard about bad leaver, good leaver clauses in employee participations, and there are some restrictions specifically to the bad leaver clauses, where we see in practice often the suggestion that the tokens already granted are moving back to the employer in case of a bad leaver. That doesn't really work according to German law. So there are some things that they spotted which need some consideration. Yeah, and then finally, I would like to get into my home turf again, the regulatory side of things. So the question, is the token that you're handing out actually regulated? And is there any regulatory requirements involved? Like typically what we see in that space, either license requirements or disclosure requirements, disclosure in form of prospectus or white paper, then later under MiCA. So that's what we are going to do this afternoon at 2 o'clock. That's us again. And we look very much forward to our deep dive. Thank you.
All right.